Good morning, students. Today, we are going to discuss a new chapter from geography, lesson 3, that is natural vegetation and wildlife. So, we are going to discuss about the natural vegetation and the wildlife that are associated with that particular natural vegetation. So, what do you mean by natural vegetation? So, natural vegetation, it means that the plant that grow naturally without any human interference, without the help of any human need. And such kind of vegetations are known as natural vegetation. We cultivate crops and we cultivate in an agricultural land, and all those vegetations do not come under natural vegetation, because natural vegetation is that where the human need is not needed for that particular forest. In case of an agricultural land, we sow the seed and we irrigate the field, and that is why it grows. But in case of natural vegetation, the plants that grow naturally are those that the plant grow naturally without any human interference. There is no need of the human being in that growth of natural vegetation. So such kind of vegetations are known as natural vegetation. So as I told you a little bit here, as I told you earlier, that for an agricultural land, we sow seed and we irrigate water, and we use fertilizers for a betterment of that growth of that cultivation. In such a manner, each and every natural vegetation in this earth depends upon the several factors like the temperature, the rainfall, the sunlight, and the topography, I mean the soil, and etc. Here, in case of natural vegetation, the temperature and rainfall is directly proportional to the growth of the natural vegetation. Where we have high rainfall, the growth of natural vegetation is evergreen, and the trees are more high. When there is a low amount of rainfall, there is a sparse vegetation. So therefore, the natural vegetation is directly associated with is directly proportional to the amount of rainfall that we get. So in such a case, do you imagine that the natural vegetation around the earth are the same everywhere? No, it varies from region to region, because in tropical region we have a high temperature and high rainfall. But when you go to the mid-temperate region and the western margin continents, western margin of the continents, there you could see the Mediterranean type of vegetation, where we have low amount of rainfall but high temperature, and the rainfall is during the particular month. And we go to the higher altitude, I mean in the mountain regions, there we could see the coniferous trees. So the natural vegetation varies from region to region. In such a case, we can differentiate this natural vegetation as forest, grassland, and deserts. You all know that forest is a place where we have a lot of trees and different species of trees are found. Grassland is a place where the grasses grow only up to the particular height. And in the deserts, we could see there is a sparse vegetation. And all those plants that grow there are cactus or dates. They have thorns on them. It is because of that, as I told you earlier, it is because of that topography. I mean, that depends upon the rainfall, the temperature, and the soil. So, in such a case, when you differentiate the forest, first we can differentiate it as an evergreen forest. In such kind of forests are found only in tropical regions where the temperature is very hot and humid all throughout the year. In such a case, when there is a higher temperature, the rainfall is higher. Higher the temperature, lower the pressure. So, in such a places of a tropical region, we can expect more than 200 centimeters of rainfall throughout for the year. And because of this high rainfall, the trees grow very taller and the leaves are very broader. And you see, in such case, the leaves do not set their leaves in any particular season because there is a high humus content, there is a high moisture content, and because of that reason, and different kinds of species of trees that are growing in that particular forest, you could see always a greenish-like structure. You could not find that the leaves are shed during the particular season because they get rainfall all throughout the year, and the trunks are very broad, and the trees are higher, and because of the very high height, which goes more than 40 meter, 50 meter, there you could not see any sunlight that falls directly on the ground. And even during the daytime, the forest is very dark. It is because the trees are very taller, and different kinds of species of trees are found in evergreen forest, such as rosewood, ebony, mahogany, and different kinds of forest and different kinds of wildlife species are also found in those forests. And that is why we say that this forest is a tropical rainforest. Different kinds of wildlife species like animals, birds, reptiles, Lagor, anaconda, crocodiles. The different kinds of species are found, wildlife species are found in such kind of forest. And the next forest is deciduous forest. So deciduous forests are found where we have the moderate temperature, where the average rainfall is between 100 to 150 centimeters. And because the rains are found at a particular month, the leaves in this forest do shed their leaves. They shed their leaves in order to conserve the water. And the structure of trees are they're not more higher. They're not more higher as compared to the evergreen forest. The trees are of a medium height and they're less denser. In case of evergreen forest, they're more denser. Here they're less denser and the trees are of medium height. Here, the kind of species of trees, for example, that grow in these deciduous forest are sal, teak, neem, etc. Since they shed their leaves throughout for 6 months to in order to conserve the water, the animals that survive in these regions, the wildlife that survive in these regions include like the tigers, lion, elephant, and different variety of snakes. And since this forest is depends upon the change in the climate, we say this forest as a monsoon forest because they receive rainfall for the 6 month and for the 6 month they do not receive rainfall. So we compare this forest to the monsoon forest. We call it as also an monsoon forest. And the next type of a forest that we find is the Mediterranean forest. These kind of a forest could be found along the western margins of the continent in a warm temperature between the latitude of 30 to 45 degree latitude in both the hemisphere, in spite of northern hemisphere and in spite of southern hemisphere. Here you see, along the western margin of the continents, they have dry summers and rainy winters. Here, the average amount of rainfall is between 80 to 100, and there is a very high temperature. They are dry during the summers. So therefore, the trees are of a medium height and have broad leaves. Yes, do they shed leaves? Of course, they do shed the leaves to withstand the dry summers because for the maximum for 10 months it do not get any rainfall. To withstand the dry summers, the trees have very thick barks and long roots and waxy leaves. The waxy leaves prevent them from the rate of transpiration. The trees have very thick barks and long roots which penetrate deep into the soil so that they can intake the water from the deep soil because they have dry summers. They get really only rainfall during the winters and most probably for 9 months they do not get any rainfall. So withstand all good conditions. So they have the waxy type of leaves which prevents them from the evapotranspiration. So in such kind of forest where they have waxy leaves, we can find trees which have needles and the leaves are very waxy. For example, like cedar, cypress, pine, oak, and lot of citrus fruits are found along these regions. And because of the foundation of, because of we found a lot of citrus fruits in this region, we say this forest as orchards of the earth. And the wildlife that are associated with this forest are deer, foxes, leopards, lizards, and etc. And the next kind of forest that we are going to see is about the coniferous forest. What is mean by coniferous? A coniferous, it means a spindle-like shape. The leaves are needle-like. Why are they needle-like? Where are they found? And such kind of a forest are found at higher latitudes between 70 55 degree to 70 degree in northern hemisphere. And such kind of forests are known as taiga. And these forests have uh, tall trees and evergreen trees. But you see, the special characteristics in such kind of forest are the leaves are very needle, and the leaves are needle-like structure. Because if they are broad, they do not allow the snow to slide down the leaves. So therefore, here the characteristic feature of this particular forest is that the leaves are needle-like so that it allows the snowfall to slide down the leaves and fall out from the branches of the leaves. So this is the peculiarity characteristics of this region, this forest. So the different types of trees that are found in coniferous forest are fir, spruce, larch, and etc. The wildlife that are associated with this particular forest are polar bear, beavers, silver fox are the commonly found wildlife that are associated with this forest. So, my dear students, we have studied in even in chapter 2 when we study about the soil and land and water, it is a need for conservation because we need to protect the forest. It is a need that we need to protect the forest. We have studied about the different types of forest. Do you ever imagine that the forest is still there? That 33% is covered with the forest. Is it so? No, my dear. The forest are getting deforested. We are cutting down the trees. Deforestation is happening a lot. Why? What is the reason? Because of higher population, because of urbanization and industrialization. You see, the forest lands are being cleared and the trees are made used for transportation. And the lands that are used for transportation, industrialization, etc., there are for various purposes. In such a case, when we destroy the forest or when we cut down the trees of the forest, obviously, my dear students, the natural habitat of several wildlife species is getting destroyed. It is affecting the natural ecosystem. Because since the forests are a valuable and integral part of the ecosystem, it is in need that we should always conserve the forest. Without conservation, if we do not conserve the forest, then there is a high amount of loss of biodiversity. Soil erosion is one of the major results of depleting forest resource. If there is soil erosion, then fertility of the soil would get decreased. So they either directly or indirectly, each and every resources and each and every conservation is directly linked. So now we are in case that we should conserve the forest. So what are the steps that can be made to conserve the forest? First step is that afforestation, that is planting of trees. And number two, banning large scale cutting of trees. And overgrazing by the cattle should be banned. And we should always have a check on the forest fires. And the main reason is that we should spread awareness among the people to conserve the forest. So this wildlife that we are going to discuss now, this wildlife is directly associated with the forest because those places are the natural habitat for various different kind of species of wildlife that exist in that particular forest. So when the particular forest is deforested, cut down, the natural habitat of that wildlife is getting affected. And obviously, and they are into the extinct. Now there are many animal species that went on the extinction. There are many of the animal species are placed in the red book. So what is in wildlife? The wildlife refers to untamed and non-domesticated animal species living in the world in the natural environment. And that wildlife lives in the natural environment. And those are considered as wildlife, not all the pet animals. So they are untamed and non-domesticated animal species living in the world in a natural environment. Here the wildlife includes not only animals, it includes the birds, aquatic animals, insects, etc. This world has a different geographical features as well as a different diverse climate, and because of that this world is one of the biodiverse spots of the earth because we will find many different species of wildlife and they are home to many different kinds of birds. Birds from different continents travel to different continents during the different times. It is because of the difference in geographical features of each and every country. So, but is those animals that survived before 50 to 60 years, can you find them now? No. Obviously, the natural habitat of animal today are shrinking due to the human activities. We human are concerned with industrialization, urbanization, and with the making with the technological era, with moving along with the technological, we are concerned with the development. So you see here, the natural habitat of the animals are shrinking. It is because of the human activities, as I told you earlier. And next point is poaching, hunting, because the skin, the hair, and the horns of the particular animals are used for making medicines. So therefore, many species of wildlife, because of poaching and hunting, they're disappearing and have become endangered and on the verge of extinction. Therefore, it is an essential to preserve the species. So again, we need to conserve the wildlife. How to conserve the wildlife? It means the protection of the species of wildlife animals. The main objective of conservation is to ensure that each and every wild animals have their natural habitat so that they can live at that particular place. The first thing is that we should create an awareness among the people. And you see, the government of India now has 450 wildlife sanctuaries, 102 national parks, and 13 biosphere reserves in India, where the animals are protected and they are given their home natural habitat. And there are many steps taken by the government in protecting the wildlife. The first one is that they have passed an act, Wildlife Protection Act 1972, which prohibits poaching, smuggling, and illegal trade of wild animals. So because of this check, there is a possibility to conserve the wildlife. And the hunting of endangered species have been banned. And they have created a protected areas where they can protect that particular wildlife, because there are many wildlife which can survive only on that particular geographical extension. And the next project the central government have initiated is Project TAIGA in 1973. This was launched for the conservation of tigers. It created awareness among the people, and the forest officers are in check with that. And the next project to do in order to conserve the elephant, in order to protect the elephant, is Project Elephant, which was launched in 1992 to protect the elephant from the poaching, because the tusks of the elephants have been used for medications. So the Forest Act have passed to protect the animals' habitat. We have protected forest, a reserved forest, and biosphere resource which provide animals their home and means a natural habitat to survive. So with this, we have completed our chapter 3. Thank you, students.